Now, I want to give some advice out here today dealing with loss. And I'm not talking about losing like a loved one or death. I'm talking about when you lose somebody out of your life, like as a friendship or as a family or a team. And sometimes God has a way of adding people to our lives for a season, but then God sometimes detracts people out of our lives for a reason. And sometimes, you just don't realize it's bad to lose someone, but at the same time, it's such a burden to get rid of that person out of your life who caused you so much grief and drama and pressure. You just don't realize the magnitude of the weight that has been lifted by that person no longer being in your life or controlling your life or forcing you to do things. And sometimes that's always a good thing. That's not always a bad thing when you experience loss from people in your life. Just however, there's kids that are involved. It's sad for them because they can't talk to you anymore because their parents won't let them talk to you anymore. And they're sad because they can't see you anymore because of the way their parents are acting. But the thing is, if that's the case for you, it's a shame that they have to be that way. And it's a shame that they have to be so childish like. But in time, if it's meant for you all to work out, if it is a family situation, then you all will come back together when they get growing up. And if there is love there with a certain individual in the family, you all will be together like that because you were meant to be together, even though you're several years apart. You won't let these things get in the way. You won't allow your parents to discourage you or do that. You'll listen to them now, but when they get to be 18, you will be able to be with them because you want to be with them. So sometimes separation from people is not always a bad thing. It's a good thing because sometimes they need to grow up and they need to mature and they need to rethink things. And if they don't rethink things, they're only kidding themselves because the problem is really with that person. That's why they go through a lot of friends every year. It's not you so much, so don't be stressed. I mean, even though all the time you might have known the person, you tried to help them, and you did a lot for them, they don't realize that because they're mentally ill. Sometimes mental illness has something to do with it too. So, when you lose friends or family, sometimes it's not always your fault. Sometimes it's just what happens because people don't realize what they have till it's gone. So, you think about that. That's my advice to you because really that's what you need to think about. And true love, won't have no bearing on that. Because a family person is always thinking they're right and they're always doing everything right all the time, they always got to get the last word and they're real opinionated and their opinion trumps everybody else's. You don't need that kind of person in your life. And the kids will start to realize that when they grow up too. They won't want to be around that kind of person either. Or if it's individual or individuals that are like that. So, you have to realize, if someone's being like that in your life, it's not always a bad thing to not be in their life. You become more successful, you become more rested, and you start realizing that you are of worth and you do have a place and purpose. Even though maybe your mom or maybe your dad or maybe somebody else, a family member, maybe thought you didn't. That's why they reigned over your life. If that's the case, if that's the situation. And that way you could be relieved when you leave home and know that you are of worth and you are of purpose, even though maybe that family member was so hard on you when you lived there. Maybe your mother was, maybe your father was, or maybe they're like that with everybody because they just thought they were perfect and they lived in that illusion because they were mentally ill and they thought that they were always doing things and they were always perfect and they never did anything wrong. Chances are they were the one that was doing wrong. That's why they always went through a lot of friends. So, God has a way of adding people in our lives and taking people away, because that's how God does it humorously. So, losing somebody in your life is not always a bad thing, even though it does hurt and it does prick your heart. But you know what? True love and time, even though that happened with that one person, does not cut everybody else off. People still talk to each other, find ways to communicate, because they still love you. So just think about that, folks. This is just one to grow on. Take care.